Hey everybody! In this video, I wanted to show you guys some different techniques that I enjoy for making polymer clay gears, because polymer clay is pretty versatile. You can like bend it in whatever shape that you want. You can do a bunch of different color schemes. I mean, all sorts of stuff. Also, FYI, if you hear like a weird munching in the background, my dog's chewing on his toy. But these are some different examples of gear charms that can be relatively inexpensive or kind of expensive, depending on where you're getting them from. I've got some different ones here that have texture on them. This one's actually a bead. Like, it has a hole drilled to the side. I really like using the edge of this one for texture. But those are some examples. These are some different gears that I made using Mod Podge molds. Like with these, you put Mod Podge resin in it, I guess. I don't know, I got it because it's gears and I'm cabbage. But I don't know, they came out, they look like candy a little bit. Like a younger version of myself would have tried eating them. But yeah, like, and by younger version of myself, I mean like 3 hours ago. But these ones I was kind of skeptical about, because it was maybe $10 for the mold. I could just be making that number up, but we did use a 40% off coupon. But I didn't have any success with putting polymer clay in it and then freezing it, because whenever you try to pop it out, see how these parts spread? It just tore the polymer clay apart. But baking, it worked out really well. So you can kind of see, and just like any kind of mold, you want to get it in there good and solid. It's a squeaker toy, so enjoy some squeaker toy noises. But yeah, so that's how that worked. And I baked it at 275 for 15 minutes. And these ones, that's gonna get obnoxious, isn't it? We'll deal with it. And the molds themselves, I've used them a bunch of times, and they're holding up perfectly. So that's great. And I didn't even have to use a mold release as well. Even where all those little teeth are, it was fine. So that's one method of doing it. Also, I have this, if you can see, is a Craft Aid from Tandy Leather. The little patterns are just slightly raised to where you would take the clay, or if you were using leather, you'd use a little spoon-tipped tool, and you'd like rub it onto the damp leather, and it would put a very light marking of the gear pattern. Whereas on the polymer clay, you can just do it with your finger. Set it on the clay, smoosh it a bit. You can use some water to repel, to keep the plastic from sticking if it's a very squishy clay. And then whenever you peel it off, it will make this, which I'm using this little notebook to keep them separated that way and clean, because, you know, dog fur and stuff. But these ones, I just put the imprint onto the clay, and then using a variety of different craft knives, I went through and just cut it out, like just stayed within the lines. And then you can use whatever color of clay that you want. I have a tendency to use scrap clay and then cover it in these Pearl X pigment powders, or eyeshadow or acrylic paint, or just whatever you want. But it makes, like, this was just scrap clay that it had gotten muddied together too much to put back in with the original color. And if I saved up all the scrap clay for, oh, well, next time I do a project that uses this mixed color, I would run out of storage space so quickly. It's like, I'll just use up what I have on hand and then remix it later. So yeah, these are really handy. Virtually indestructible. I've had this for like years. And it's multi-purpose, so you can use it on leather, polymer clay, and you can put paper over it and like do like graphite rubbing, and it'll pick up the kind of pattern. It's cool. Just experiment with it. And then this is from the scrapbooking section, like paper crafting. It is Darice brand. It's just a paper embosser. So it has one side that's pokey outy and one side that's sticky inny. I guess negative and positive sides, maybe. Pokey outy and sticky inny. Technical terminology. But for the purpose of making gears, I use the imprinted sticky inny side. I'm such a mad scientist about this. And it makes stuff like that. Now I was just using, this is chocolate colored Sculpey. And I'm going to angle the camera down just a bit so that you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to bring it in a little bit more as well, because I really want you guys to be able to have a good solid idea of what it is exactly that I'm doing to all this stuff. So I've gone through with my craft knife and kind of cut and cleaned up the edges to get it to be nice and square for the most part. And then this is a tool. It's a filigree leather punch. So you can kind of see the shape there on the end. It's all teardrop. And I just went through with the pointy end and kind of took out the knocks where the little notches to give the gear its teeth. And now I'm going to go through with this silver Pearl Ex that I have. I try to not stir the bottles up a whole lot because this stuff is like really bad for your lungs. Should be wearing a respirator, but I'm a bad person, so I don't. And this is just an angled blending brush for like eyeshadow and stuff. I find it works perfectly well for painting my polymer clay as far as powders go, because I really like using the makeup brushes for it, because I feel like the powders clean really well out of them. So you can kind of see I'm really caking this Pearl Ex pigment on there and kind of smushing and mashing it into all the little nooks and crannies. And also you can use the tip of your brush to like texture if you want a more like stippled texturing. You can use your fingertip to kind of rub and buff out any kind of blemishes or anything like that. Or if you really want some cool texture, you can take this part of my craft knife is all like textury, but so is this on this other clay working tool. So I'm just going to take that and kind of rolling pin it over the surface of my gear, just like that. So I mean, you can really get some interesting effects here. I'm going to put the lid back on my Pearl Ex and then show you with some black eyeshadow. I'm just going to get some on my finger. I'm going to come through and kind of do like a relief. That didn't work out very well at all. My fingers are so sticky from working with polymer clay a lot today that the powders don't really redeposit. And you can use charcoals and different things like that. So yeah, here you can just see I'm darkening down with the black eyeshadow. And you can really experiment with different stuff like this. And you'll notice I have my working tile here that I usually bake on, but then I have just a piece of scrap paper that I use to cut the gear on. And the reason I do this, let me do a little bit more silver, you guys. I just want to see what happens. Yeah, that layer of black settled into some of the holes, the little texture grooves. So you can experiment with all sorts of different kinds of like textures and things on this. One of my favorite effects is using black clay and then just doing like a buffed surface. That way the black really shows through. It makes a really nice sharp contrast. But I'm able to rotate the gear to an angle that's most suited for, you know, what I'm doing at the time. And then also I'm able to peel it up and off. Normally I'd be using a piece of like a butcher or freezing paper that has like a waxy surface because the gear is less likely to stick to it. And I just come through and peel it right off. And then some of them, like these ones, have been baked already, so they're nice and hard. Ones like this one though, I might want to kind of smush in with another design. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open up this little notebook and just stow it away in there. Now another option, again, and this is something that usually if I've already shaped a piece, and I'm just going to make a real quick, like little heart, I guess. Feed it through my pasta machine. Okay, so I've got some clay right there. I've got a little heart cookie cutter or clay cutter. Pop that out of there. Now this is just a real quick and messy demonstration, and I don't even think I'm going to keep it. I might do a more drawn out tutorial of this design. But this is going to give you like a general idea of how I go about doing some of this. So we have our heart very basically and roughly shaped out. And then we can take, here I have, these were like ink stamps that I cut up to remove some of the negative space. But you can see some of these have some pretty cool textures going on in them. And so this is our before. And I really like this part right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some water on it. Just enough to repel a little bit. Like, I just don't want everything sticking up in there. And then I'm just going to smush it onto the clay. And see how that left such a nice texture? And then another option that we have is right here, I have another leather stamping tool. It's a stamp regardless of what it's meant for, so whereas with leather I would be hammering this on the polymer clay, I just smush it in, just like that. And then from here I have, here's one of those gear charms. Again, more interesting texture. I can just take that and come in from this angle and smoosh. There's some more coolness. And then I'm going to use, ooh, where'd it go? This, this tool, this little bead charm. I'm just going to take that and kind of like wagon wheel it. See how it left that cool texture there on the side? I mean, you can really get as artsy-fartsy as you want with this, but that was, I don't have to replace, like, I didn't use the charm on it, so with this one charm I could make hundreds of these, I mean countless, you know, until I lose the charm. But all it took was that little bit of clay, and you're able to make something like that. And now what I'm going to do is I have my bronze Pearl pigment. I'm just going to dip my finger like that, get some on my fingertip, kind of tap it a bit, and I'm going to go through and rub just the raised surfaces. And this gives a really nice contrast. And here you can see, just like that. It was easy as that, you guys. And then this I would bake, maybe, and you know, go over it with an acrylic wash to do like the recesses. Like I'll do a version of this for y'all in a complete tutorial setup. But yeah, I mean, with just those charms and stuff, like how I showed you. So these are just a couple of different ways, you guys, in addition to just taking a circle cookie cutter. Like, I'm gonna smush this up and then show you with the same clay. Like, that's how easy these are, is from an artistic perspective. Like, that did come out really nice, but I just smushed it up. Like, I'm not terribly heartbroken because I have all the same stuff to just re-imprint it. And so it's not like I'm having to go through and redraw every gear. And so, like, that's something, a little heart like that, I would have sold in its completed form for like $5 out of the booth with like a little like jump ring put on it for a bail. Like, you know, so granted it would have been glazed and like I would have set the back and stuff, but so to do just a freehand gear, which if all you have are some craft knives and different things, I've got a little cookie cutter here. I've rolled it out on my thickest setting on my pasta machine. I'm gonna pop out just a round blank. I'm gonna roll my clay up and get it out of the way. And then I'm gonna go through with a craft knife. Again, I'm going to bring this back down so you can see the happy little gears. Sorry, I'm a dork. And then you can just go through and try your best to do equidistant, equally long cuts into the clay here around the edge. And I'm not that great at this because I do rely on my stamps and stencils and different things so much. But so you can see, I just did that. And I'm going to go through and take out some of the teeth of this here gear. Sorry, I think I'm funny, so I make myself laugh at least. And so you can see how I removed one. Also, it's probably important to mention that if you do an even number, that's better than if you do an odd, but I did not keep track, so I'm just gonna wing it. And this is great for if I want like something that's a specific size that none of my other molds or anything are able to accomplish. It's good to have freehanding in your skill set. I feel like, oh, good. I'm so glad it has enough teeth. There you can see, it's kind of messy, it's kind of little, but what I'm going to do now is I have this ballpoint stylus, and I'm going to go in and kind of clean up in between. You can use a needlepoint tool to clean up the edges. Just make it look a little crisper, you know? So there's that. And now my favorite thing to do, I actually have one of our first housewarming gifts, like 12 years ago when Randy and I first got together, or 11 I guess was whenever we moved in. But we got, like, we had been given a couple of different toolkits, and I utilize even the stuff that it's like, when am I ever going to need a screwdriver like this? Well, for polymer clay, that's when. But I've made just a little ball of clay here. I'm going to put some Acrylex on the surface of this clay. A little bit of bronze and silver mix. So that's what it's looking like. And now I'm going to take that little ball and flatten it down with my finger a little bit. Then I've got the flat end of my craft knife, and I'm going to boop. Flatten it down just a little bit more. Then you can take the head of your screwdriver, this is a Phillips head, and just center it up and press it in. And now check that out, y'all. Look at that. Look at, which I mean, you should have screwdrivers in your house anyways. Just because you never know when you're going to need one, whether it's for polymer clay or for home repairs, but it's as easy as that. And I've got a bunch of different little, like eyeglass repair kits and, like some teeny tiny little screwdrivers for doing like hinge work on doll houses and stuff that leave all sorts of different, patterns and different sizes of screw heads and stuff. So, as with most things, your creativity and access to tools are the only limits here, but since it's polymer clay, you could actually go through, if you don't have a screwdriver, you can go through and make this shape with polymer clay, bake it, and use that as a tool to, you know, to like sculpt and stuff with. So it's, I think that's why I like polymer clay so well, is for very little monetary investment. Like, it's like, what, $2.50 for a brick of clay, and that's if you don't get it on sale. That's not bad considering all the different things that you can make from it. And you can just get some basic colors and paint them up to look at like what, like I've seen some artists here on YouTube who do their sculpting entirely out of like white or black clay and then go through and just do all the painting and texturing on it. And I'm like, that's very impressive to me, because I'm like, I want to see the colors. But yeah, I hope this tutorial was helpful for y'all. I kind of rambled a bit, I apologize, but this is something I get really excited about because it can seem daunting when you see a lot of these really intricate and cool looking polymer clay sculptures. These are just some of the little tips and hacks that might help you to achieve what you're working towards artistically. So please like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. If you guys enjoy my free tutorials and would like to support our work, you can check out our Patreon, which there's a link down below, and for just $1 a month, you can participate in our Home for the Gnomeless fairy house giveaway. This is the house for January, which is so cute. Look at that. There was an ice storm whenever I was sculpting it, so I was like, let's make it winter themed. But it's just the cutest little thing though, isn't it? Like, well, there's cuter things out there, but I'm particularly fond of this one right now. But yeah, that's for just $1, and all of the proceeds from our Patreon go towards whenever I teach panels and workshops at conventions. I provide all the tools and materials for free. That way, if y'all attend, you can just take the class, and whatever you make, you get to take home with you. So that's really nice that for just $1, you're supporting artisan education, you know, all across the Southeast and Midwest at whatever shows, you know, we're able to show up at, as well as more tutorials, more different things like that. So, yeah, thanks again, you guys, for watching, and happy crafting. I'll see y'all around.